Good evening, this is Weather NJ, and once again we have a winter storm bearing down on the state. And this time looks like it's going to be a little more of a wintry mix as far as precipitation type goes. Not all snow like the last couple storms. Us snow lovers have gotten lucky, but this time it looks like we're going to have to deal with some rain, some sleet, some freezing rain, but there will be some snow for much of the state as well before we see the changeover. I'll get to when exactly that'll be a little later in the forecast. First, a few things to show you. This is the current temperature map, valid 6 o'clock in the evening. You can see temperatures across the state still below 30, and really they didn't break out of the mid-20s for much of the day. And a lot of these places you see across the state are the current high temperatures for the day. Up there in High Point, New Jersey, 15 degrees. So definitely some cold air at the lower levels. But I did talk to you in my last correspondence about a change in the jet stream and the way that the wind was coming in off the Pacific Ocean. You could see that here on the water vapor loop for the past 24 hours. You can see at the beginning of the feed, you see a very west to east flow off the Pacific Ocean, and towards the end of this, you can see more northwest to southeast orientation as a trough carves itself out here over the middle part of the country, heading towards the Mississippi River Valley. So what we see is for the past couple of days, we've had Pacific air flooding across the country, and that's really affected much of the upper levels as temperatures have warmed significantly, and that's why we're going to have a lot of precipitation type issues for this storm. The other thing you can see here, this is our storm starting to gain some steam over the southeast. Right now you won't find a low pressure center anywhere on the eastern seaboard as we have fading low pressure dying right now across the middle America, Missouri and Illinois. But we will see the genesis of our storm across the eastern seaboard pretty soon in the next couple of hours. One more thing I wanted to touch on here with the temperature map. These are the dew points right now across the state. Below zero in some places, single digits, teens, very, very low dew points. Down towards South Jersey a little bit higher as there's already been some moisture starting to feed in across that part of the state. And I've talked in the past about something called evaporational cooling, and essentially what that means is that as liquid falls through the atmosphere into a very dry air mass, it evaporates, and that's a cooling process. So these temperatures, even though some places in New Jersey are currently near freezing, and down LBI and down in Wildwood they're already above freezing, these temperatures will drop below freezing, at least cold enough to support snow for a short period of time as that precipitation starts to work in towards our area. And here you can see this is the current pressure map across the country. Lowest pressure right now, it's located right here, Iowa, Michigan, heading towards Illinois and Missouri as we spoke about. Nothing right now as far as low pressure across the eastern seaboard. In fact, you can see an exiting high pressure leaving across the northeast and starting to move out towards the British Maritimes. But something interesting that you can see here is these ridge lines extending down into New Jersey and further down into Virginia, and this is a phenomenon known as cold air damming. And what happens as winds circulate out of the north and the northeast out of this high pressure area, they butt up against the Appalachian Mountains, and what you have is cold air sinking down on the eastern side of the Appalachians, on the western side of the Atlantic coastal plain. And what that does is it helps to trap cold air at the lowest levels across western New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and down towards central Maryland. And this is what's going to help support some icing and some sleet tomorrow, whereas if we didn't have this phenomenon going on, we'd be switching from snow just to plain rain. In some spots in the state, that will still be the case, but some points will see the freezing precipitation tomorrow. Now this right now is what's called a skew T diagram. It shows the temperature through the entire atmosphere. This is for central Hunterdon County, and this is for 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I have a couple of these pulled up. One is from the North American model, the other is from the GFS model. Let's just get these all at the same point. And what you can see here on this is the freezing line, 0 degrees Celsius, that's 32 Fahrenheit. And you can watch that line and track it as it moves up through the atmosphere. And then these are the temperature and the dew point lines, the red and the green. You can see on the GFS, it looks like a very, very, very shallow layer of maybe just a little bit above freezing. So this is a snow profile before it goes to a couple degrees below zero at the very surface. So it's very cold there. The NAM at the same point, at the same time, shows a little bit more of a warm profile. This is 2 to 3 degrees above freezing from about, I'd say, 975 millibars. That's just a few hundred yards above the surface, all the way up to about 800 millibars. So this is a very deep layer of warm air, and then right at the surface you can see it drops down to 0. And this is a freezing rain profile. This suggests that any snow that falls will melt in this layer right here and then freeze at the surface. So this is for central Hunterdon County, and this is at 7 o'clock in the morning. So one model says snow, the other one says freezing rain. It's really splitting hairs here, but the bottom line is that we're going to be dealing with frozen precipitation during the rush hour for much of New Jersey north of Route 1, I believe. One more depiction of the same thing. This is the GFS. This is what's called the thickness profile from 1,000 millibars to 850 millibars. This is maybe the bottom quarter of the atmosphere. Anything north of this blue line will be below freezing and cold enough to support some sort of frozen precipitation. It does not account for what is aloft of 850 millibars, but at least at this lowest level, you can see we are going to be looking at frozen precipitation, and this is valid at 7 o'clock in the morning. This basically says everywhere north of 195 could see some frozen precipitation. And the greens, this is the amount of precipitation that's fallen, and this is all stuff that has fallen by this point in time. So a few hours earlier, this blue line would have been a little further south, and all this precipitation that's fallen has fallen in this cold air. So at the lowest levels of the atmosphere, we're going to be able to support freezing rain or sleet or snow, not specific to which one it is, and that all changes as you go further north through the state. So that brings me to the forecast for New Jersey tomorrow morning. I'm going to have to verbally talk about this one. I didn't have time to make a snow map as I have wedding preparations to be had this evening, so sorry I had to rush out and take care of that, but hopefully you can stick with me here. What I'm looking at is south of 195, maybe an inch or two tops before a switch over to plain rain. That's south of 195. That's Mount Holly, Toms River, all coastal locations, Cape May, Gloucester counties. North of 195, probably still going to be switching to plain rain, maybe a period of sleet, very brief freezing rain. It's when you start to get towards the Route 1 corridor and the Route 202 corridor that I expect to see some more problems. Looking at some brief sleet, some brief freezing rain, 1 to 3 inches total of all frozen precipitation. By 11, 12 o'clock, we are looking at plain rain even here, and it's a little further north that I really see the more significant freezing rain problem. Looking at central Hunterdon, looking at northwest Somerset County, northern Bergen, northern Morris counties, those places, northern Passaic County. That's basically where I'm expecting to see the most freezing rain after maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow and some sleet. Looking at a line from about eastern Pennsylvania to West Milford, New Jersey, anywhere on either side of that line by about 10-15 miles, maybe up to a 1/4 inch of ice accrual, and that is significant, with roadways being treated, but with temperatures below freezing all day long and the sun not really able to heat up the road temperature pavement too much. I do think that we're in for some significant icing across that region. A little further north, looking in Sussex and Warren counties and northern Hunterdon and far northern Morris, I think you see more snow and sleet and a little less of the freezing rain. I don't expect the mid and lower of the mid and lower levels to get as much warming up that far north. So more snow and sleet there, 4 to 6 inches total. And once we get past this storm, a couple days of some seasonal cold, and then looks like another threat of snow or at least a winter storm for Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday possibly the coldest winter temperatures of the season. So definitely a lot of winter weather to talk about. It's been an exciting one, and that looks to continue at least for the foreseeable future. All right, stay safe.